in three different tables. There can only be one in one table. Clear? Now, the column that I will use to fetch the details from another table, because department ID is a primary key in the other table and it is a foreign key in this table. Similar is the case with this. Project ID is the primary key in this table. It is related in this. So in this table, we will call it as a foreign key. So clear, what is a foreign key? It is a primary key of the other table, which can be used to fetch the details. Going back here, foreign key establish a relationship between two tables by linking a column in one table to the primary key of the another table. Did you understand the example of what is a foreign key? I'll
Yeah,
explain again.
yeah, just one question. So, foreign key can be primary key in both the table, like department ID and project ID. Both are the primary key and foreign key as well.
Not exactly. See, department ID, these constraints are there for this table only. So for this table, department ID is the primary key, and for this table, department ID is a foreign key. Apart from this table, it could be anything in any table. It could be foreign key in 10 tables, 15 tables, not an issue. And it can be primary key also. But when we are creating this relationship, we call the table with repeating values as the foreign key, and the table with unique values will obviously be the primary key. So for this table, this is the primary key. For this table, this is a primary key. But for this table, this is a foreign key. And a table can have n number of foreign keys, but I can only have one primary key. So if you want to link this table, you can have, project ID here or project ID here. So you can now link these two tables, right? In this case, project ID here is the primary key, but here it would be a foreign key. Okay, so that is the concept behind foreign key, and primary key and foreign key are very, very important concept. And again, primary key is a combination of not null and unique. Now there are certain additional constraints that we can add. One of which is a check constraint. So a check constraint ensures that all values in a column specify a condition. In check constraint, you can restrict the range. So if the age column is there, I can restrict the range from 100 to 120. Right. I can make the range between 0 to 80. If the speed is there or the weight is there, I can make the range from 0 to 200. So this is your check constraint. You can restrict the range of the type of data that can be entered in the column. Default constraint is the default value that would be assigned. Right. So if a product has no stock quantity, if the column is empty, it will by default assign it 0. Right. Or let's say if you are not having uh, any citizenship or something, by default you will be assigned Indian in case you are living here. So these kind of things are called as default constraint. If there is empty value, it will by default assign something, right? So that is there. And auto increment is when you can automatically increment a unique number for a table. So this happens mostly in the ID key. So what will happen? Let us say in the order details table. In the order table, let us say in the order table, the orders are getting, they are getting filled, and the details are also getting filled. In the order ID, what I will do, I will just use a auto increment counter. So what will happen? Automatically it will assign 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it will keep on assigning. So this is how we can use a auto increment to add a unique number to each new row in the column. So default will assign a default value, check will ensure that the value is within a range, and auto increment will automatically increment the value by 1 unless specified that you have to do it by 2 or 3, and that is how your auto increment works. So I hope these constraints and data types are clear to you. Any questions, any doubts in these? Okay, I hope no. So now what your task is that you have to design a library management system, just like you did earlier with the coffee one, but this time you also have to write data types and primary key or a foreign key if there is any. Right. Sanket is asking me to repeat the n varchar data type. Sure, Sanket, just a moment. So in the n varchar data type, we have string data type, right? So see, in varchar, you can store normal string like your name, your address, your email address. But when there are Unicode data like multi-language data or some special characters like rupees is there. Let us say you have to write in Hindi, right? If you have to write Urdu script or you have to write anything else like hash or something, right? Japanese script is there. I don't know how, or maybe pi symbol you want to insert. So these symbols might not be there in varchar by default. In that case, you have to use n varchar. I hope that is clear that to use Unicode data, so you can store it in multiple languages. Okay. Now I have written in the chat box, you have to design a library management system. You have to mention the table, the fields, the data type of each one of them, and if there is a foreign key or a primary key constraint, you have to mention that also. I will say you have to design three tables, and you can think of what three tables could be there and what you want to. I will give you five to 10 minutes for the same, and once done, just let me know in the chat box. You can write in the chat box actually your answers, and I would be taking it from. Okay, so any one of you is trying, or shall I discuss it for you?
No, we are trying.
Okay, okay, not an issue. Take your time. I was just having the confirmation. You have five
Yeah.
more minutes. You can take.
Okay, sure. Hello.
Yes, Lokesh.
So I have pasted in chat. So I'm not sure is this correct or not. I'm
Yeah, I'll
like
I'll I'll have a look. Just
okay.
a minute. I'm just waiting for a few more students. I'll have a look at all those solutions.
Okay. So,
Okay, so first solution shared by Lokesh is product table, product ID, primary key, integer, and product name varchar 200, product details varchar 200 is fine. Customer table, customer ID, customer name, customer phone number, that is character 10, pin code is character 2, pin code is actually 6, but that is not an issue.
sorry.
That
I
is
was
not an
thinking
issue,
about.
just pointing it out. It could be 2 in any other country, so we are not taking it that seriously. Just data type is correct, that is fine. Sales table, sales ID, primary key, integer, foreign key, fine. Nilesh written book master, book code, varchar. Book code is integer, book name is varchar, book author is varchar. Uh, Book publication is varchar, book date is date, book price is float, book language is varchar, and book genre is varchar. Customer ID, okay. Customer name, customer date of birth. Customer in time is a date time, customer out time is a date time, customer gender is a character 6, stock, book ID, integer 10, and quantity integer 10. Yeah, it is fine. Stock is okay, book ID is integer, and initially you have a book code that is also integer. So that is fine. Okay, so both the solutions are fine only. You can have it your way. Just I'll discuss it. So books will have the book ID. Integer, it would be primary key. You can add a auto incrementation also, like book ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you don't have to assign some ID every time you are assigning a new book. Title can be varchar, cannot be null. Author cannot be null because every book will have a title and an author. That is why, right? Borrowers, borrower ID in primary key auto incremented, again optional. Name varchar 100 cannot be null, and membership date default value the current date. So this is a very good example of a default constraint that we can have. So let us say if there is a member, if there is someone in the library who is borrowing it for the very first time, who is not currently member of the library. So what I will do, whenever he will borrow his first book, the date that he is borrowing would automatically become his membership date, because when he borrowed his first book, he officially became our member. So it could be a current date as a default date. Another scenario, which is an online store. So product ID integer, primary key auto incremented, product name varchar cannot be null, price, which is float, cannot be null and must be greater than 0 because price cannot be negative. Stock quantity integer, default value is 0. If there is no stock quantity, means the stock quantity is 0. Order ID integer, primary key auto incremented, customer ID integer, foreign key, referencing the customer table. Okay, there is no customer table here, but if there was, it would reference. And order date is date time, and it cannot be null. So that is there. Last slide in today's this PPT is the difference between SQL, SQL Server, SSMS, and TSQL. Right. So you might hear these terms a lot. So I will just here try to clarify all the confusion that you might face, like what is SQL, what is SQL Server, what is this. So SQL is the foundational language used to interact with the databases. Okay. It is the thing that is the language we use to interact with the databases. As I've already told you, MySQL, MS SQL Server, which is Microsoft SQL Server, and PostgreSQL, these are database management system that uses SQL. So SQL is the language, and these SQL Server is a DBMS that use SQL to retrieve the data, to do all the data manipulation, data definition, data creation. Third is your SSMS that you might have installed with your SQL. I think all of you have installed SSMS, right?
Yes.
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 So SSMS actually stands for SQL Server Management Studio. So SS is SQL Server, MS is Management Studio, which is the interface for you. It is kind of a front end where you can interact with the database. So in the backend, the server is there where actually tables are created, where actual relationship is there. But to write the queries, to look at your tables, there is an interface, right? So SQL Server could be your processor, your RAM, and SSMS is basically your Windows, which is there to interact with the server. So that is the front end. And TSQL, you might hear sometimes, and you will not hear it very frequently, but just you should know that whenever we would be doing SQL in Microsoft SQL Server or HSMS, we won't be doing SQL, but actually doing TSQL. Right. So what is TSQL? It is actually a specialized version of SQL. So Microsoft added some capabilities into SQL. They manipulated the language somewhat to make it little bit more advanced. So all the basic SQL commands work in SQL Server, but with that they added some special commands so they can add extra features. Okay, it is just like if SQL is Android, then companies have their own UI on Android, like OnePlus has its own, Xiaomi has its own, Samsung will has its own. So 2SQL is kind of Microsoft's own version of SQL, where they have made certain changes to the same, but it is largely still SQL only, and it would still be applicable on a lot of other SQL platforms, that is your MySQL and PostgreSQL, with certain differences here and there, which we would be covering in between. I will tell you that this is only in SQL Server, and this is something that you have to take care of. So that was all about the databases and these kind of things.